Hey, this is Buzz Bishop, and you're listening to the Don't Change Much podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Men's Health Foundation. It's a show about how to improve the health and well-being of men and their families with simple lifestyle changes. Our guest today is none other than the regular host of this podcast, Dan Murphy. Now, normally Murph asks the questions, but we've switched mics and dedicated this episode to learn a little bit more about him and what simple lifestyle changes to improve health and well-being means to Murph. So the doctor is the patient. Welcome to the other side of the microphone, Murph.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm under the spotlight.
Are you comfortable there? You need to get some 110% effort. Your stick on the ice, pucks in deep. You need any cliches off your chest to feel the vibe of a guest? Or
we'll see. However tough the questions are, that's when I might have to roll with the odd cliche.
We'll get to your life as a sportscaster and sneak inside the dressing room to get some stories of your life up against the glass in the NHL. But we need to start with some congratulations. You've been a face and voice of the Canadian Men's Health Foundation for a while now, but now you are officially a spokesperson. You're a national champion for the Canadian Men's Health Foundation. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. It feels good. I like working in this sphere. I hope we provide something that helps people, and I think going through it in turn helps myself in many ways. I tend to learn a lot as we go through this process, so it's been fun.
Now, being a face in the media, you get pulled into all sorts of charitable directions. What attracted you to the Canadian Men's Health Foundation?
Well, first off, good friends are involved in it. TC Carling, the president and CEO, and Ben Brown came on board, and he's been instrumental in helping me through this process of being the host of this. But I think a lot of it for me started too just with the passing of Rick Rippon back in 2011. That's when I first really started to think about mental health problems in a serious way, started to pay attention to others who open up about such things, and that's kind of where it took off from. So I would say that's where things started for me.
Through this first season, you've spoken with Jody Vance, Kevin Bieksa, Corey Hirsch, John Herdman, TC, among others. What has stood out for you during this first season?
Well, a few things. I don't want to pick favorites, but just for myself, interviewing John Herdman, I think was a real eye-opener. I mean, he's a great communicator. He's a great storyteller. He's a great leader, and you can understand why with just the way he spoke about his story with such passion and knowledge and understanding. I found that to be a great one. Also, the one with Kelly Rudy and Dr. David Kuhl about having a positive, father mentorship with your child and how that pays dividends down the road. I found that to be great. And Bieksa too, just because we've had such a great relationship over the years. And I think we kind of try to live the same type of lifestyle now. Now, obviously, he was a professional athlete before, but just in terms of as we get on in life, trying to, maintain some sort of physical and mental, healthy physical and mental health relationship. So I think, I'm not going to pick favorites, but those are a few that stood out.
Yeah, those are some highlights. Everybody can scroll through the archives. The one with juice really stuck with me too, and the routine. There are 6 pillars that we promote as part of this podcast: getting active, eating healthy, lowering stress, sleeping better, drinking less, quitting smoking. And you're on this month to talk about the get active pillar, exercise, and healthy lifestyle routines. What was the moment that challenged you to prioritize your health?
Well, I was like probably most young boys, super active into the high school years, played a ton of sports, soccer and baseball till I was 18. It was slightly competitive in tennis, but just had that, the metabolism you have as a teenager. You could eat whatever you want and nothing seemed to change with your body. I went away to university. I stopped playing soccer, stopped playing baseball. Intramurals don't offer as much. And I got on the beer and pizza diet as most do in university. And the freshman 15 was real. And after 2 years, it might have been the freshman 40. So, that's kind of what, I'm a pretty thin guy. And so when you gain a ton of weight in your face and your stomach, it's easy to see. And I think it was after my third year of university, I came home and a good friend of mine, Larry Hurd, he said, basically, you look like a bag of milk and this needs to change. And he was a guy that had been a gym goer since, the age of 16. And back then, like in 85, 86, I don't think there was a focus on going to the gym as much as there is now. And so I said, okay. And so that's what got me to the routine. It was at that time, it was strictly a vanity play. I wanted to look better. I wasn't thinking about physically being healthier. I just wanted to get in better shape, see if you could grow some muscles, see if you get the six-pack back. So that's kind of where it all started for me, the routine. And really, I don't think I've looked back since. I've kept some sort of routine ever since. That would have been, I guess, since 91, 92 in that time.
Okay, but even with that routine, you still have health challenges. You're taking medication for high cholesterol, right?
Yep. And that's just brand new. I'd say right before the season started this year, early October, I got sick. I tested myself a number of times and never came positive for COVID. But I just, for about 2 months, I was lethargic. I would still go to the gym, still do my routine, but I was tired all the time. I didn't have energy. And so I thought I better just go in and see what's going on because it didn't feel like myself. And so I went in and did all the tests and everything was fine except for my cholesterol levels were super high. I can't remember what the markers are. If it was supposed to be 1.5 or lower, I was like 5.3, so way over. And, a lot of it's probably hereditary because my diet is fairly good. I tried a couple fad things like keto, which I would never do again now for myself because of these cholesterol levels. That's probably not the best diet. And so, right away he said, you're on medication, which is fine. I'll take it. And the other one was blood pressure was high. Again, something my father's had. And so we've been monitoring that for the last month or so. And I'm going back in for a follow-up here pretty soon to see if I do have to take some medication for blood pressure. But it was a bit of an eye-opener because I'd always lived, a fairly healthy lifestyle. We can get into, routines and that later. But this is, I guess, life when you crest the age of 50. I mean, You're going to start to get into some of these problems. And so, and I'll say now, though, since about early January, I've back to normal. Whatever I had, whether it was long COVID or something else viral, it's gone away because I feel, normal again, so to speak.
Talk to me about that conversation about having meds, because when I saw my doc about a year and a half ago for the last time I had my markers done, I was borderline, and he's like, well, you can work on it or we can give you medication. And I was afraid to go on the medication. I thought that was like giving in. And I said, oh, we can work on it. I haven't worked on it very well. What is the decision to go on medication to treat something like that and admitting that, maybe just the routine alone can't settle it?
Well, the first thing I asked was, what are the side effects?
Right.
I mean, that's the main question you're going to ask. And he said, you might get some muscle soreness, like muscle aches. And I was like, okay, whatever. The second thing I do is my sister's a doctor. She works in Emerge. And so I called her and asked her. And she said, it's better to get on these things now and get them under control, whether it be blood pressure or cholesterol, than to worry about it when you're 60, when it might be even worse. So she was all for it. She agreed with the doctor's recommendation. And so that was, comforting to me to know that she had no problem with it and she agreed with it. So with those two things, and I think I had a little bit of the side effects, not much, but I haven't noticed anything else. And like I said, I'm going back in for my checkup. I'd like to see where my markers are now. And then he's going to decide whether we can decrease the medication a little bit, increase it a little bit, and see where we go from there.
It is just a simple pill every time you have breakfast or
night,
before you go to bed?
Yeah, before bed.
Manage your stress, not the other way around. For simple ways to improve your mental health, check out the free MindFit Toolkit from the Canadian Men's Health Foundation. Complete a self-assessment, access virtual counseling, and learn more about how anxiety, stress, or depression might be impacting your health. Go to menshealthfoundation.ca and access the MindFit Toolkit to start improving your mental wellness today.
Now, I think most guys watching on TV think you have a glamorous life. You're traveling, you're around the sport we love, you're meeting the players. What's a typical day like for you during the season at home versus on the road?
At home, my day usually starts, I wake up sometime before 5, and that's when I'll go to the gym because I try to get everything done before my daughter gets up. She's 10, she goes to school. And I'm on the road so much that when I'm home, I like to do as much as I can for my wife because she's got a full-time job as well. So I usually get home from that at 7-ish, get the daughter up, make her lunch, feed the dogs, unload the dishwasher, whatever, walk my daughter to school, and then I usually go to the office and then the rink. And so whatever your day consists of at that point, I get home usually around 10:15 at night. So your day it's fairly long. I have added in my day now on home games, after I'm done my work in the afternoon from the office, I'll try to go for a walk, 45 minutes to an hour, just instead of sitting there and watching TV, unless there's something compelling. Like I'd watch the golf if, one of the Canadians was involved. I might say, okay, I'm foregoing my walk today. But I try to do that, just get outside, get a little fresh air, just make me feel better. The road's a different animal because a lot of the time you're getting to a hotel after a game at 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning. So clearly I'm not getting up at 5, but I will still try to get the workout in before work and do the same type of thing. Go for a walk after I'm done my work. And there you go. So the sleep takes a bit of a beating on the road, especially when you get home at, say coming home from road trip out east, you get home at 2 or 3 in the morning, which is 5 body time. And then, your child's getting you up at 6:30 because she wants to play. So sleep patterns have never been that great for me, but I'm kind of used to it. And as long as you get a couple good ones a week, I find that helps me out. So I try to keep similar routines at home as I do on the road, but that can be challenging with nutrition and stuff like that as well.
Right. Well, when you're hanging out with Cheech and Shorty and putting ketchup on everything, I'm sure nutrition.
You travel with 2 toddlers, it's difficult, because I don't want to eat chicken fingers and fries every meal.
So the sleep part is intriguing to me. I'm a morning radio guy, so I'm up at 4 every morning for my job, and I have a hard deadline at 8 for me to get into bed, and so I'm trying to get 8 from bed to alarm anyway. Maybe it takes me an extra half hour. I'm doing the math on you, and you're getting 6. How does that crush you?
Well, it's at home. I usually get the daughter down around 9, and then I'll try to literally go in and read a book at that time to try to fall asleep before 10. And I don't set an alarm. I mean, I'm always going to wake up a couple times in the night, and usually I'll wake up sometime between 4:30 and 5, and I'll get up. If I have a flight or something, I'll set the alarm, although I'll look at my phone 50 times during the night to make sure I'm not going to miss it. So, but I have found that my sleeps are they've gotten better than they used to be. And if I'm sleeping fairly soundly from 10 until 4:45 with a couple of wake ups, I find that's good. But if you have a couple home games and then I'm not going to bed till 11, I find by the end of the week I'm a little bit tired. So I need to try to get a 7-hour or a little bit more on the weekend.
Tell us about the exercise. You're at the gym for 5. So it's important to you because that's an ungodly hour. So what do you do when you're there?
I mean, it's just a combination of some cardio and some weights. I think that once you get to my age, they say weights are more important than cardio because you can get your heart rate up doing that and you can, maintain muscle mass, which you need as you get older. And then I'll try to maybe go for that walk in the afternoon. So it's nothing complicated. I try to change things up every once in a while to, keep myself interested. And if you do the same things over and over, your body learns how to cheat those exercises. So, as simple as I might be in bed the night before and I might look on Instagram at some different people that are fitness instructors and I'll see something, I'll say, I'll try that tomorrow. So just to keep things interesting, but it's nothing complicated at all,
So, and not with a trainer, you're just, pulling it a la carte and just kind of alternating between upper and lower because you can't skip leg day, right?
Well, you would think that I do. If you see my legs, I don't. But yeah, no, I will work different body parts each day.
Is that walk in the afternoon something that helps you deal with stress?
I don't know if I'd say stress. I like clear my head. I've tried to start listening to podcasts because believe it or not, hosting a podcast, I really have not made, I don't know how many I've downloaded in my life. It'd be less than 10. But those 10 have all come in the last 6 months. So I started to download some podcasts to walk and listen. So yeah, it's just more to get out and get some fresh air. And, you walk over the Broad Street Bridge and back over the Cambridge Street Bridge. It's beautiful. And I just do that instead of sitting on my chair at the office and turning on the TV. Now, sometimes if I'm tired, then I'm like, you don't have to go for the walk. You don't have to feel guilty if you can't do the walk. It's just something I wanted to incorporate.
Right. Have you ever had a time in your life where you were struggling and your exercise routine helped snap you out?
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, I think that's a big reason why I do it. I find that if I can't get the workout in, I mean, when you go on vacation, it's different, right? You're on vacation, you might not have the facilities, you might not have the time, you're, doing different things. So I don't stress on vacation. I might try to get a couple runs in, but if I don't do it, it's nothing I beat myself up over. But I find that if I don't start my day off that way, I don't feel as good during the day. I don't feel like I've accomplished as much. I don't feel like I've set myself up for the day. And if you are committed to waking up and working out, well, then you treat yourself a little bit better at night because you know that morning is coming awfully quick. So it's twofold that way for me. But no question, when I'm working out and I'm feeling good, mentally, I feel much better than the other way around.
So is discipline something you struggle with, or is it just you've got that routine now going for 20 years, 30
yeah,
years?
The discipline's not the thing. I mean, the road, I've kind of made my rule that I like to have some beer, I like to have some wine, some cocktails. So on the road, if I'm going to consume bad calories, it's going to be through, some drinks instead of bad food. So on the road, if I can do 2 or 3 things, work out, eat right, then I can, reward myself with a couple glasses of wine at night or whatever on the plane. And that's not to say that if I see a burger I want every once in a while, I'm going to have it. Fries, right? I mean, you don't have to be perfect. So I've always kind of lived my life that way, that if I need to do 2 of those 3 things on the road to set myself up for some sort of success. And so discipline that way, it's never really been a problem because I like it.
Right.
I like to do it. It's not something I don't want to do. I like to get up. I don't always like to get up, but I like to go to the gym. I like to feel like I'm, doing something good for my body. So the discipline part, I don't think has been much of a problem at all.
No, and that's the whole theme of this, right? Is don't change much. It's like, so you look at it and you've got 3 angles here and you got to knock off 2 of the 3. It's not like you're trying to be a natural Arnold and trying to get to the top of no, you're just trying to get through life with a smile on my face and keep my machine working as best as it can.
Yeah, and one thing that I've kind of learned, I'm going to say probably even over the last 5 years, is I used to be like, if I don't have an hour and a half, I don't want to do it. It's not a proper workout. It's not doing me any good, and I'd get upset if I didn't have time. Now, if I have a half an hour and I can just take the dogs for a walk around the block, I'm doing it. Or it's if you have 20 minutes, it's better to do 50 push-ups and 50 air squats and nothing, or go for a brisk walk. Like if you don't have the time to do what you kind of set out to do because you ran out of time or whatever, life gets in the way, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do what you wanted to do. You can do what you have time to do. And I think that's something that I've learned to accept, especially, since, becoming a father and, and having a bunch of other time commitments around that. So I think that's something that I'm much better at now than I used to be.
Have you seen the movie Stutz on Netflix? Jonah Hill doing the documentary on his therapist?
I haven't. No.
Okay. So in it, it's a fascinating documentary. Over the course of a year, they do a conversation. It's just how Jonah deals with his things, but it kind of feels like you're getting free therapy when you're watching it. And one thing that Stutz talks about is he has a pyramid and there's 3 levels to it. And the foundation, the bottom where you draw all your energy from, is the body, and you have to look after your body. So it's sleep, exercise, and diet. And if you're in a rut, if something's not feeling well, then it's your body. That's the basic that you come back to. Then it's relationships, and then it's being creative or doing something that you feel good. And that's where all of your life force comes from. But if your body's not feeling right, then it doesn't matter if you have all the friends or you're being super creative and great at work. Body is the foundation.
Yeah.
And I just find that pyramid fascinating. And that's what I
can
totally
kind of
what I keep in my mind.
Because when I was feeling like crap from, early October till the end of the year, I didn't feel as good emotionally or physically or mentally, when I wasn't, getting the workouts in, or I always felt tired. I could fall asleep for 20 minutes in a heartbeat in the middle of the day, So at that time, definitely I'm not going to say I was struggling, but I wasn't as happy as I usually would be because I didn't know what was going on.
You've got your daughter, you take her to school. That's some great chatting time. How do you involve her in? She's not coming to the gym with you at 5 a.m.
No. If we're away somewhere and there's a gym, she likes to come in, but that's only because she wants to get on a treadmill and turn the TV on, or try out the bike for 2 minutes and that type of thing. It's funny. She's 10, so you ask her to walk down the block and you might get pushback, but she goes swimming 4 times a week and swims 500 meters in each of those sessions because she doesn't realize it's exercise yet. So we're trying to instill that in her. My wife is very physically fit. She has been. She's done Ironmans. So that's another thing. If you have someone in your life, or relationship partner that, is kind of trying to do the same types of things you do. You can push each other on, and it's a lot easier to have that commitment when someone else is getting up at 6 to do something. So we're trying to instill that in our kid, but it's not, she still eats McDonald's when she, does something good or, that type of thing. But we're trying to, at least make sure she gets her physical activity in, because she doesn't like to exercise. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Right.
If she thinks it's exercise.
Right. So it's walking to school instead of driving, right? Which so many people in my neighborhood, it's only 3 blocks, but SUVs are lined up
for us. So
are you intimidated by your wife's exercise excellence? Are you inspired by it? Do you want to do an Ironman?
I don't. I don't want to do that. She hasn't done one for a while, but she, I don't know if I would have the discipline to do it or the time, especially now, considering how much time I leave her alone at home. I think I'm on the road, somewhere around the neighborhood of 120 days a year.
Right.
So if I came back in the summer and said I'm going to spend all weekend training, will you take care of the kid? I don't think I'd be able to do an Ironman because my legs would be broken. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a tremendous accomplishment, but I don't know if I would have the discipline, and I know I don't have the time.
Right. And again, that's the extreme that we talk about, right? Like you're just trying to keep your machine working, and then there's other people who are trying to kill their machines. Right? Yeah. Do you have any tips for guys on how to get started? I mean, You had a friend talk to you when you were in university, and you've kept at it since, but how do you start?
Well, there are a couple of things. More on the fitness side. If you're just getting started, start with a half-hour walk a day. If that's all you have time to do and that's all you want to do, you don't have to, and then you can build from there. You don't be intimidated by weights. Don't go to the gym right off the bat if you're not comfortable. You can get some weights at home. Like I said, there's so many things online now that you can look at with not big weights, so you're not at risk of injuring yourself by doing something wrong. But I would say just start small and build your way up. And then I always found that when you start to see even a little bit of results, that gives you motivation to keep going, right? So just get started. Don't be discouraged if you don't see something after a week or 2 weeks. It might just be that you start to feel like, hey, I can walk for 40 minutes now. I feel good. And I'm not as tired after 45 minutes. And I would say on the nutrition side, there's no secret pill. I mean, if you want to lose weight, you burn more calories than you consume in a day. And I don't, like at the start, it doesn't matter what those calories are, if it's McDonald's, whatever. Don't worry about the nutrition. If you want to lose weight, you burn 200 more calories than you've consumed. Keep track of it. Like, don't just guess it. Like the MyFitness app is super easy. It's got everything on there. You search for whatever food you had, whatever brand, you put it in. And then once you kind of get that going, then you can learn a little bit more about eating foods and make it more efficient and make you more full, where you can have more food. So just little things like that. If you can start simple by that walk a day and just trying to have a calorie deficit by just a little tiny bit, and then work your way, because you don't have to take a giant step all at once. It's impossible.
The Rock put out a great quote right around New Year's resolution time. And he's like, you can look at it and say one day, or you look at it and say day one. Like you have to start sometime, and wishing it isn't going to make it happen. So you can say one day or day one. And if you choose day one, then it gets there.
Exactly. And I always say too, like imagine like if you start now, in 3 weeks, you're saying, man, I'm glad I started 3 weeks ago, instead of like, oh, I should have started 3 weeks ago. And I always do December now. I kind of treat December 1st, not as January 1st, but I'm like, I'm not going off the rails in December. I'm going to kind of recommit December 1. So you don't just let it all, like by December 15th, you're like, I'll just get to it on January 1st. Yeah, and then right. January 1st, you're like, oh, why did I do this to myself? So I tilt that a little bit by a month now in December, just so I make sure that, I'm still going to crush Christmas dinner, and I'm still going to have all the festivities and the sweets, but I'm not going to just totally fall off the rails like I might have, 10 years ago.
And here we are. Canada is waking up from a wicked winter. Spring is here. Day one is, it's weather's better. You don't have to bundle up. And like you just said, 30 minutes walk, get yourself a dog.
Exactly.
And, that'll force you to go outside.
Yeah. If you've ever thought about getting a dog and you want to get in shape, it's the greatest thing. We have trails by our house, and my wife does it most of the time because I'm working, but 45-minute walk with the dogs, an hour walk, and they love it. And you get home and you feel like you've accomplished something too.
Okay, so we've worked on our body. Now let's go inside the locker room. Let's talk some sports stuff. So you're the game host for the Canucks on Sportsnet. You've had a couple Hockey Night in Canada stints, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, we ever since the Sportsnet got the rights, the national rights, I've had a good opportunity to do some games, some playoff series, which are fun. But I still remember the first time I did it. I can't tell you the date, but the first Hockey Night game I ever got, we were in Arizona. And I remember looking down at the Mike flag, the Hockey Night in Canada Mike flag, the CBC, and it was kind of a cool moment, something you'd watched, all your life growing up. And at this time I had been hosting games for Sportsnet for, 10 years.
Right.
It's not like it was new to me. It was just kind of just something that you'd watch. It was kind of a cool moment. And then, back in those days, the national games, we wouldn't get the playoffs. I would travel just for news and reporting. But now that we have it, you get to host some playoff series. So that's been certainly fun. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to do any Canuck series because understandably we have regional hosts and national hosts. Well, first off, the Canucks haven't made the playoffs that much since we got the rights.
Let's be real.
That's one thing. But if there's ever two Canadian teams playing, the Canucks were ever playing Calgary in the playoffs, they wouldn't want me doing it because all the Calgary fans would say, what is the Vancouver guy doing our series?
Right,
which I understand. So, yeah.
The coolest moment I saw everybody talking about with Matt Berlin when the University of Alberta goalie who got to play for the Oilers was, and he got the towel. It's like, do you have a Hockey Night Canada towel in your memorabilia?
Well, I don't have them, but this is just something kind of funny. This was just 2 road trips ago. We were doing the Hockey Night game and we were in Florida. And my post-game interview was Eric Stahl, who's over 1,000 games in the league. He's won gold medals at the Olympics. He's a very decorated player. And I did the interview and Hockey Night towel. I said, you probably have a million of these. He goes, yeah, actually, I don't. Because, the Hurricanes never did a lot of games on Hockey Night in Canada. So he took it with him proudly. And I was kind of giggling because here's a guy that's, so accomplished. He's got all these awards. And even he was excited to get another Hockey Night towel at that time.
For sure. So tell us about some of the other interviews you do, one that kind of went maybe sideways.
Well, Kevin Bieksa, he's probably my favorite subject over the years, just because we kind of started at the same time. I was there a little bit earlier, and he's someone that keeps you on your toes. So I always enjoyed my times with him. Shane O'Brien was another. I would let him know in the morning that we were doing bench interviews, so he would go without a helmet, and he'd make sure his hair looked good every time. So he always appreciated that. Good friends with Chris Pronger, and he is like Bieksa, that when you interview him, he'll tell you if he doesn't like the question, and he'll ask you to rephrase it or ask something smarter. So I like people like that aren't afraid to give it back to you. The Twins got me one time in Pittsburgh after a game. Henrik came out and pretended like he was Daniel, and I didn't notice until we were on the plane, and I was like, that's the clothes that Daniel was wearing, and now Henrik's wearing it. So they got me one time. So that was a little bit off the rails. But yeah, those are some of the ones that stand out.
Yeah. Do you get a chance to get autographs or memorabilia stuff? There's a professional line, but at the same time, like, you're a fan.
Yeah.
Are you Peter Nedved trying to get a stick after?
I have collected almost nothing in my time. This is my jersey collection. I have a Jason Strudwick Blackhawks jersey signed, because he was a former Canuck. He's friends of ours. I have a Jarkko Ruutu signed blue Penguins jersey because he sent me it because I wanted to get one for my friend who's a Ruutu fan. Yeah. I have a Steve Nash Team Canada basketball jersey, and I think I have a Tanner Glass Penguins jersey. That's it. I don't really have a place to, put them up.
Wow.
But I haven't collected anything. I think when I'm done, maybe I'll ask Jeff Vinnick, who's a photographer.
Yes.
And I'll say, can you send me some pictures of me interviewing guys?
Yes.
Maybe I'll keep those for a keepsake, but I haven't been one for memorabilia at all.
Wow. When I broke into radio in Vancouver, Red Robinson was working across the hall. And I remember coming in and listening to him do the morning show on Sea Isle. And he was, the time I met Elvis, and then plays the interviewer. That time I was on stage with the Beatles at Empire Stadium, and plays the clip. And then the whole station was filled with photos of him and Buddy Holly and him and Johnny Cash, and like go on and on. And then I just stopped and I'm like, I'm in the greatest era now. So unlike you, I have taken photos with as many people as I can and gotten the interviews, but I guess or autographs, but I guess it's a little bit more of an informal relationship, when 98 Degrees is in your studio, it's pretty casual as opposed to, you on the bench before Game 4 of the Stanley Cup final or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure I would have no problem with any Canucks or former Canucks. I mean, I get jerseys signed for friends and stuff, but it's just something I haven't really put a lot of value in, and maybe I'll regret it one day. But as long as I get some pictures at some point, then they can pass those on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the photos are great. Was it being a sportscaster what you wanted to do when you were in uni? Is that what you were studying, communications or something?
I was in communications, but I went to university with just to keep my education going. There was no foresight on it. And then lived in Abbotsford, and my friend's brother worked at the Rogers station in Abbotsford, and they were one of the first people ever to get a sports mobile. So Drew Kirby was the name of the producer. So he would like, you guys want to go do a high school basketball game? Okay. Play-by-play, high school basketball. So started to do it that way. In fact, I'm glad these tapes don't exist. They might somewhere. But my friend and I started a rock video show because they had all the rock videos. So we would do like these little, intros and outros, extras of these videos.
On the cable, like your own Wayne's World on the cable station.
Basically, yeah. We'd do a couple like 15-minute shows that they could just jam in there. So that's kind of where I started to decide that that's what I wanted to do. And
then it just kind of like you built on the TV experience, and then one thing leads to another, and it's at Sportsnet.
Yeah, it was long story short, after BCIT, I went to Sports Page on a very part-time basis, 8 hours a week, 4 hours Saturday, 4 hours Sunday, and I was a production assistant, and my host for those days was John Shorthouse. We worked together to this day. And then just kind of worked my way up from there to, a production assistant, to an associate producer, to a writer, to a producer. Never really got on the air at Sports Page, did a couple reports. And the funny thing being, in the late 90s, I figured that I was just going to be behind the camera. I got hired at the Golf Channel to produce Golf Central. And I was going to go down. I was getting my immigration papers, and then I got hired by Sportsnet as reporter. So that's kind of changed the course of action. And that was in the fall of 1999.
Wow. And was there ever a backup plan, or have you just had an easy wave? Could you see yourself being an accountant, or?
When I was going to school, I wasn't sure. I think that, this might not be the real popular answer, but I think probably I was thinking about going into policing. Yeah. If broadcasting didn't make its way, that's kind of the route that I saw myself going.
Yeah. Well, my first year of university was to be an engineer. I wanted to drive the space shuttle. So it all takes twists and turns, right? But as long as you're doing something, right? As long as you're going to university and growing yourself and finding yourself, the path will come. And, unless you're absolutely rigid as like you're Hermie from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and you want to be a dentist, and you're railroaded there. The rest of it is just figure yourself out, right?
No question. Life experience. You go to university, you find people that are like-minded, that have similar interests to yourself, and something presents itself. I always said that just go to school and you will likely find something, or something will find you.
That's when I talk about with my kids is, so what I have grade 9 and grade 8 and grade 10 right now are my boys. And I just keep telling them, it's like, my job is to give you open as many doors as you can. And it's your job to find the doors. So take advantage of all the opportunities at school, all the extracurriculars. And if you go once and you hate it, well, then that's fine, but you tried it. And I always have a little bit of parental guilt that I didn't, if I didn't give them the opportunity to find something that it could have solved some world crisis, but I didn't give them that opportunity. So I'm constantly just trying to say, do as many things.
Totally true. Totally true.
So what do you tell people who want to be the next Dan Murphy, who want to be the next James Duthie? What do you tell them?
I mean, I wish I had James Duthie's salary. I'll tell you that. You want to aspire to be him, not me.
Yeah.
You know what? It's this business, as you know, it's shrinking. It's not expanding, but there are far more avenues to get involved now. When I started, it was either you were kind of on the air or you weren't. There weren't podcasts. There wasn't social media. There wasn't blogs. There weren't all these different things. So I think that if someone wants to come in and do this job, learn as much about everything as you can. The more stuff you can do, if you can shoot your own work, if you can produce your own stuff, if you can write your own articles, if you can create content for social, if you can get all those things, the more stuff you can do, the far more attractive you are to an employer, obviously, because you can check a lot of boxes for them. So practice. You don't have to go to school. It helped me greatly. BCIT for sure. But the thing is now you can get stuff on the internet and get discovered. If you're good, the other thing I say is be yourself, right? The only thing that will make you stand out from other people is if you're genuine. Find your own voice. You can copy some things off other people. Like when I first started, I definitely copied like Barry McDonald's writing style and Don Taylor's on-air kind of humor. But you have to find your own voice because that's what's going to set you apart from the rest.
And I second BCIT. That's where I went. And, when we were starting out, you had to go to BCIT to get the equipment to do the training. But here I am in my basement doing this. Like the tools there's no border anymore. There's no barrier to entry. You can do it on your own. And when you say like do as many different things, I'm gonna name check Satyar Shah, who 15 years ago started at Z95.3 as a guy who was setting up our remote broadcasts, and he was lugging around signage and setting up microphones and handing out stickers, and he wanted to be in sports. I was like, all right, good luck with that, kid. And well, you know what? He was committed and look where he is now, right? So
yep. Yeah, and it's funny that when my first practicum out of BCIT was at CBC. We're going to the newsroom. It was myself and Oliver Lama became a good reporter for BCTV. We sat down in this little desk, 2 chairs on the other side of it, and I think it was Margot Harper, who was the news director at the time. She came down with this stack of 50 manila envelopes saying, these are dead stories, revive them. And I sat there and I was like, oh my goodness, 3 weeks, what am I doing? And literally that afternoon, as I'm contemplating a career change, Barry McDonald walked by and said, either you guys like sports? I'm like, yeah. He goes, all right, come with me. That was it. He's gone. Oliver was by himself in the newsroom. I was with the sports guy and Karen Larson for the next 3 weeks, and I got super lucky.
That is, and timing. And so if you put yourself out there, both will find you. All right, let's just talk some stuff beside your bed. You mentioned that you have books that you like to read maybe before bed. What's a new read that you got?
See, I wish I could tell you that I read important things like biographies, and I have read a couple. I'm currently reading Aaron Volpatti's, the former Vancouver Canuck that wrote that one, and his experience with a terrible burn he suffered when he was 16. So I'm reading that one. I have read some other biographies, but I tend to read like trash novels like Balducci or novels, fiction novels, because I find that you don't have to be mentally sharp at night when you're reading those, right? And then you can fall asleep and you're not trying to retain anything. And if you miss a little bit, you can pick up where you left off. So the books that I read don't hold any value. Let's put it that way.
Okay. The question at the end of the podcast is the same, Murph. What does don't change much mean to you?
It means just start with something small, right? Just make that first step. Once you do, and once you find incremental change, once you see some change, some positive results, it's going to inspire you to do more, but you have to start. And that was me back in 1991. I just had to start and get on the right path, and you never know where it's going to change you. The other thing is too, like I said, is you don't have to be perfect. You can have an off week, right? It doesn't matter, but you have to get back into what you were doing. Don't let that bad week define the next week or the next 2 weeks. You don't have to be perfect. Just get started and see where it leads you, because, especially guys my age now, things can go off the rails awfully quickly if you don't take care of yourself physically and mentally. So that's what I would say.
Well, thanks for letting me take over your chair this month.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Murph.